Before I get into this video, I'd like to give a little disclaimer to my viewers. This video will contain a lot of themes like pedophilia, drawn CP, real CP, etc. If any of these topics trigger you, please click off the video, and just remember, if you are struggling with any of these issues, know that it's okay to ask for help. I love you all. And also, another disclaimer, please do not harass anyone mentioned in this video, because even though they're fucking pedophiles, it's still not okay to harass people regardless. Anyways, go ahead and enjoy the video, and have a good one. Hello everyone, it is I, Nurse Quartza, and welcome back to another video. Those of you who watch my channel may be familiar with a series of videos I do on this channel called the Stovia Saga. For those who don't know what the Stovia Saga is, it revolves around me calling out a certain ship in the Helva community involving incest and pedophilia known as Stovia. And this video is kind of going to be part of that series. However, it's also going to delve into other aspects of this whole situation that don't involve the ship itself. Let's get into it. So, when the defenders of this ship and, other problematic ships from other fandoms get into arguments with people like us, normal members of society, they default to a certain set of arguments to deflect any valid criticism onto the ones calling them out. Notable examples of people who do this kind of tactic are Grishnax, Sandcipher, and Riki Spiral. And those of you who watch my channel know that I've brought up these people time and time again, and I will bring them up throughout the course of this video as a reference. And before we get into these arguments though, I sort of need to set the stage for why I'm doing this video. See, there's a user on Twitter who goes by the name of Soul Sentinel. Like Grishnax, they draw a point of underage characters such as Octavia. And Sentinel has gone a step further than Grishnax, and their art of Octavia, and I say art in like quotes, revolves around the toddler version of Octavia, and these art pieces basically revolve around the toddler version of Octavia being forced into sexual positions, which counts as a literal porn of an underage character. This is porn of a minor. And it wasn't once, it wasn't twice. All of their porn is of baby Octavia. Of course, this is CP, and it's very fucking disgusting. And along with that, their art includes multiple instances of bestiality. And you know what? Yeah, no, please get this off the internet. I don't want to fucking look at it. But we're not just going to focus on them. As I mentioned before, this video is going to delve into the arguments they use when faced with valid criticism on places like Twitter, Discord, YouTube, Tumblr, wherever. The "it's just fiction" argument. This is the most common one they use, and it's all they really have, aside from, oh, you're just butthurt or you're just an anti-uwu, but we'll get into that other one later. This argument takes many forms, but let's look at the basic "it's just fiction" one first. The argument that this kind of art is simply just fiction is heavily flawed, since this can basically be applied to anything else and still be problematic. For example, let's say someone puts out a piece of art that depicts a negative stereotype of LGBTQ+ people. Hell, this is why we canceled Antunes. His comic were basically presenting discussing ideologies, but they were still quote-unquote just fiction. Now, you can't exactly say just fiction to those, because they were still a negative depiction of things like LGBTQ people and all that. So what makes porn of literal children who aren't even close to 18 different in this scenario? That's right, nothing does. Nothing makes it different. It is still fucking CP, and your defenses of it just give us more to use against you. Please stop. It doesn't affect reality. This, like all the other arguments, is flawed. Before I get into this next part, I know that this thing that I'm about to talk about in the next few seconds isn't exactly meant for the squeamers, so viewer discretion is advised if you are triggered by things such as, attempted murder, or skip to the time card that I will probably put on screen. So, back in 2014 to 2015, Two young girls thought Slender Man was real. Those who heard of the story know how this ends, and it unfortunately ended with these two 12-year-olds trying to kill their friend in a forest, and their friend miraculously lived because they missed some vital arteries. So, this is an example of fiction affecting reality. When these kind of things are exposed to children who are impressionable and don't even know what the hell taxes are, it has consequences that can end in serious harm. For example, these two 12-year-olds, they were exposed to things like Slenderman at a very young age, and this resulted in them trying to literally kill somebody. Alright, disturbing part is over now. As for the other aspects of this argument, which I will argue against, I'm not really qualified to talk about it because I'm a bit of a dumbass, so I'll let my friend Jester handle this segment. Take it away, my good lad.
Why, thank you. Hello, Nora's fans. I'm Jester, and one thing you need to know about me is I'm very much into history, pop culture, and the effect fiction truly has on reality. I've studied it for years, and while people will claim that believing in fiction getting into reality is stupid or means that you need to touch grass, historically they are completely wrong. Fiction has always been used to warp people's perceptions of reality, one of the most well-known examples being the original story of Beauty and the Beast. The original story was written in a time when arranged marriage was insanely common, and it was used to teach girls that they should be passive and wait for their horrible, unwanted husbands to become handsome princes. Mythology does this as well, with stories of gods and goddesses being used to teach people where their values should lie and how they should act in order to be good people. A lot of it is technically fiction and absolutely had a massive effect on reality. Another, frankly, much darker example is the use of propaganda. Propaganda is still fiction, and drawn fiction at that, usually coming in the form of comics and posters. The most well-known cases of propaganda being World War II propaganda, which was used to make German society accept the Nazi power as the divine power that would save their country. This belief was not only disgusting and wrong, but perpetuated by fiction. Fiction that teaches people these horrible things had a massive effect on the population, and continues to do so to this very day. The argument that it's ridiculous for people to be concerned about your fictional child pornography because, oh, it's not real, is idiotic when you actually take a look at the world around you. This art has been known to be used by child groomers who want to teach them that sexual content between adults and children was okay. Hell, look at the recent Cosmodor situation. He groomed his partner, who was a child, by showing them fictional porn, some of which depicted children. This content, like the content I listed, is being used to change people's perceptions of reality, specifically teaching them that sexually abusing kids is okay. And I know this because it is something that I've witnessed firsthand back when I was a naive kid wandering the internet. Fiction is a reflection of the real world and has constantly been used to manipulate the beliefs of many. If someone was actually paying attention in school, we'd all know this, but then again, it's not like they're saying this as anything more than a cover-up. Back to you, Nora.
The age of consent is insert number here in insert country here. Therefore, it's okay. This is one that Grishnax and the Stovey adaptation accounts have used before. And wow. Do I really need to educate a bunch of fucking adults on why this is a stupid argument? Let's state the obvious here. These characters that you are sexualizing are not from the country you are describing. Your laws may apply to your country, but not to these characters. And even then, don't you think it's a bit hypocritical to cry about how this is just fiction, but you apply the law to these characters? And I guess I'm gonna have to educate these adults on how the law works too. Have fun. See, the age of consent is meant to be a law that describes the age at which teens can have sexual intercourse with each other, not with grown-ass adults. For example, say the age of consent in Mexico is 16. That doesn't give a 36-year-old the right to have sex with someone once they turn 16. It just means that once someone turns 16, they can explore those topics safely with other 16-year-olds, not with grown-ass adults. So trying to say the age of consent is insert country here, or insert number here and insert country here does not apply. So when you're drawing Octavia porn when she is 17, it does not mean you can use this age of consent argument as a way of explaining why you get to draw art of her having sex with someone who is much older than her, and also someone who is her dad. And let's also bring this up. The law isn't always fucking right, especially if it hurts others. Sure, the age of consent is a law, but you know what was also a law? The Jim Crow laws. You know, the ones that allowed segregation by race in America after the Civil War until the late 1960s. Those laws were racist and they weren't right, but they were still laws. And also, the Second Amendment is also a law. It gives me the right to own a gun. But that doesn't mean I have the right to pick up a gun and start shooting up my local shopping mall or some shit.
On the topic of laws, a very common tactic these people use is to misconstrue child pornography laws. They claim that drawn images of children isn't actual child porn because it isn't real children. This is a common misconception, but according to the Department of Justice, images of child pornography are not protected under First Amendment rights and are illegal contraband under federal law. Section 2256 of Title 18 United States Code defines child pornography as any visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct involving a minor, someone under 18 years of age. Visual depictions include photographs, videos, digital or computer-generated images indistinguishable from that of an actual minor. An image is created, adapted, or modified but appear to depict an identifiable actual minor. Undeveloped film, undeveloped videotape, and electronically stored data that can be converted into a visual image of child pornography are also deemed illegal visual depictions under federal law. This strong content would fall under the digitally and computer-generated category, and since there's wording here that I'm sure someone will point out, the use of the word actual minor does not refer to real living breathing minor. It refers to any depiction of someone under 18 years of age, which includes characters who were drawn into these pieces specifically to be actual minors. If a jury were to look at these images with an understanding of the true laws pertaining to child porn and an understanding of how children are portrayed artistically, it would be recognized as what it is, and the artist could be imprisoned for the possession and creation of child pornography. This is because the characters they use in the has-been and hell of a community especially, the characters are clearly depicted as minors. They use designs with incredibly young traits, such as bigger skulls with the eyes further down on the face, chubbier bodies and faces, shorter hair, big pupils with bigger eyes, and childish mannerisms and vocabulary. It absolutely falls under the category of child porn by law, which should be the end of this conversation, but unfortunately we aren't done there.
Another thing. One thing that I noticed in this situation is that these people seem to forget how much shit other people got into for doing the exact same thing and what ended up happening to them. For example, Shadowman. For those who don't remember Shadowman, he was an artist who drew minors, both fictional and real, in sexual positions and rightfully got criticized. You wanna know what happened to him? He got rightfully canceled. In fact, the porn that he was drawing of underage characters resulted in him having to flee his country. The cancellation was justified as the things that he drew back then, they were disgusting. One of his defenders, Ben the Looney, was also chastised as a pedophile for making these stupid "it's just fiction" arguments. So what point is there in trying to defend this content that you're putting out and defending if people who are doing the exact same thing were rightfully canceled for doing it? It makes no sense. And another thing I see with this is that they say, well, if you don't look at it, well, if you don't like it, then don't look at it. Well, people don't know how to not look at it. For example, people don't know how to omit tags on Rule 34, so they see the content regardless of whether you want to or not. People don't know how to omit results on Twitter, so the shit ends up on their fucking timelines. And even if they knew how to do those things, they would still be exposed to it in one way or another. But oh no, we are far from done. The "I'm drawing trauma art" argument. Alright, so you take your trauma, sexualize it for the world to see, thus triggering other people's trauma. Okay, definitely you drawing trauma art. That kind of thing needs to stay between you and your therapist instead of being published for the world to see and potentially your abuser to see as well and get off to. Seriously, do not fucking sexualize your trauma like that, because then people will either get off to it or people will be triggered by it. However, there is an exception to this, in which if it's done purely to cope and not to sexualize it, then okay, you're in the clear, but just don't post it. It's kinda how it is for sexualizing it. People will see it and it will get worse. If you're told to do it by a therapist and you are not posting it and it's just yourself and not other minors in drawing, then okay, draw it, but just be careful with it.
Coming from someone who has experienced trauma of that variety, I can understand how hard it is to cope with it. However, not all coping mechanisms are healthy, and certainly not this one. Depicting your trauma in a sexualized or romanticized way is a form of self-harm because you are intentionally triggering yourself. You are depicting your abuser as being in the right to be doing these things, which is exactly what your abuser wants from you. When you are making this content and sharing it with people who see the trauma you've been through as sexy or desirable, you are stunting your ability to truly heal. How do I know? Experience, unfortunately. And just to be clear, no, I didn't draw anything disgusting like that, but I did stunt my healing process through my shitty coping skills, specifically by triggering myself and being around people who triggered me. Romanticizing your own trauma is not a healthy coping mechanism, and we are allowed to tell you that it's not okay. There are better ways to heal out there that aren't drawing a 6-year-old being molested and posting that on Twitter. Going to therapy is a good one. Practicing things like saying no and setting healthy boundaries is a good one. And drawing stuff that actually makes you happy is an excellent coping mechanism. Don't impede your ability to heal in this way, and don't use it as an excuse to draw illegal works of art and share it with the world.
You're just an auntie. Unfortunately, most people who create this content aren't misguided due to not knowing how to healthily cope with their trauma. In fact, I'd argue that most are downright malicious, as they use very interesting tactics to try and insinuate that it's strange or bad to be appalled by a fictional CP.
The most widespread and known way they have done this is by coining the term anti. And anti is what they use to refer to people who are against their content. It's a catch-all phrase that they attach to you to make you a part of the faceless mob that they can tune out and demonize so they can get away with their horrible work. Anti is an inherently negative term, and they express the negativity of it very clearly through their posts whining about how someone else didn't want to see a child being molested on their timeline. It's a very similar tactic to the tactics that MAPs use. They attempt to make themselves look like the victim of a faceless mob filled with bigoted monsters so that you'll forget that they want to fuck children. Since pro-shippers sound inherently positive and anti sound inherently negative, who do you think is going to be seen by as the bad guy by someone looking in? Exactly, it's not going to be the people literally breaking the fucking law. It serves as a distraction from the core issue, that issue being that it is normal and healthy to be disgusted by child pornography. It is purely manipulative to assign this term to normal goddamn people to present yourself as this express yourself however you'd like and live your life the way you want advocate. Don't get me wrong, express yourself in the way that makes you happy, but expressing yourself and drawing actual fucking child porn are two very different things.
Focus on real kids. This, in all honesty, is fucked up, because you are using these terrible tragedies that scar children for life as an excuse for you being a blatant pedophile. Let's apply this logic to another scenario as usual, in case you still don't understand. Say someone puts out art which depicts stereotypes of white people, or black people, or Asians, etc. Saying focus on real blacks, or focus on real whites, or focus on real Asians makes you sound extremely racist. That's because it is fucking racist. So imagine how saying focus on real kids would make you sound. Yeah, it'd make you sound like a fucking pedo, which is what you are. And besides, how the fuck do you expect us to focus on real children when we don't even know what to look for? I mean, on Twitter it's easy to spot them because there's bios. All you have to do is look up the term MAP or AOA or zoophile on Twitter, and there you go, pedophile spotted or zoophile spotted, go and report them. But on other sites and even in real life, it's more difficult to look for that kind of thing. Discord can't exactly show you who is or isn't a pedo. Neither can YouTube unless they explicitly state it in their page or in their content. So we focus on you assholes who are part of the issue as well and rightfully cancel you. So do not come up to me and tell me to quote unquote focus on real kids when you yourself are sexualizing fucking children. And let's apply the logic backwards once again. Why not put energy into protecting said real children instead of drawing porn of them and advocating for said porn?
It ties back to them trying to distract you from the real issue at hand. They want to make you seem like the bad guy by gaslighting you. Yes, drawn child pornography doesn't hurt real kids to be produced, but once it's out there, it can and will hurt real kids. That's why we need to stop this kind of material, real or fake, from being created at its very source. Coming from a quote-unquote real kid who has been groomed, this point is just straight up gaslighting. Besides, if we should focus on real kids and protecting them from pedophiles, who's to say that the artists depicting children whom they are attracted to in these sexual positions aren't also focusing on real kids? We don't know what they intend based on their artwork, and whether it's to serve as an artificial surrogate or to cater to people who use it as an artificial surrogate.
The laws are unconstitutional. This point is so unbelievably fucking stupid that neither me nor Jester could believe what we were reading the first time we saw it. Guess what? The Constitution does not fucking protect your right to draw child porn. If that was the case, think about all the other disgusting and illegal works of pornography it would also technically protect. If banning drawn child content is apparently unconstitutional according to your freedom of expression, who's to say that actual child sexual abuse material isn't also unconstitutional? The Constitution does not protect your rights to commit crimes. We have the First Amendment, the right to freedom of expression and free speech, but it's still a crime for me to go around telling people that I'm going to break into their fucking homes and murder them in their sleep because that's harassment and death threats. The Constitution's Second Amendment protects my right to own a gun, but like I said before, that doesn't give me the right to open fire on a fucking crowd like in the Boston Marathon. That is not how this works. The Constitution certainly does not protect child porn, and this argument killed off half of our brain cells because of... I can't even speak, but it killed off our fucking brain cells because of how stupid it is. I literally read off the Department of Justice point, and just fucking... The fact that you're trying to say, oh, this doesn't apply here, and the laws are unconstitutional, go fuck yourself. Just snap my neck already. I want to die. Isn't it better for pedos to jerk off to fictional kids than real ones? No, you brain-dead cunt, it isn't. And here's why. The fact that, you're arguing, oh, isn't it better for, them to get off to fictional kids than real kids? No, it's not better, and here's why. The fact of the matter is, porn is an addiction. It's a common fact that porn is an addiction. And as with every addiction, initially you start off small, and eventually you crave it more and more, so you start going to more intense things that'll help fuel the addiction. That is why drug addictions can become so dangerous. You start off on something small, and then eventually you start going up and up the ladder until eventually you overdose or even potentially die from something stronger. All because you got addicted and started craving that high. That is exactly how porn is. So, when pedophiles start off watching lolly hentai or some shit, it's gonna work for them, but eventually it's not gonna be enough, and they're eventually going to move on to more and more realistic depictions, and eventually it's going to spiral out of control, and they're going to start looking at actual CP, which is why the argument that, oh, it's better for them to get off the fictional kids isn't true, because then, at that point, you are just asking for something bad to happen. And if a man is in an online community where the sexualization of children is incredibly normalized through fiction, so much so that they feel perfectly comfortable seeing kids in this manner, who's to say whether his 5-year-old daughter or his 14-year-old son a few rooms down is safe in that household? At what point would they be in danger? Think about that the next time you try to make this stupid fucking argument. The end. Alright, so now we're at the end of the video, and I guess I should close this off with a few sentences. If there's anything you should take away from this video, is that these people who are using these arguments and these terms, anti and pro-shipper, they are downright manipulative in the fact that they are using these terms and these arguments to try and shut rational people down, and trying to get people on their side is fucked up, and it makes these people worse. And if any of these people use these arguments against you, or try to shut you down with any of these terms, well, go ahead, use any of the counter arguments used in this video, or in fact, just fucking send them this video instead. Or even better, have me handle it, or me and Jester handle it, because we're clearly very good at our jobs. But yeah, as always, this has been your Gorza. Go ahead, like this video, subscribe if you for some reason liked it, and check out my social medias in the bottom, Twitter, Discord, Curious Cat, and you know the saying, something about ravioli, I'm a dipshit, singing out, I guess. Have a good one.